Hello there. What is going on, everyone? We've got some news on Star Wars Unlimited. We've got some card previews and a little bit about how the game is going to play. We'll talk about this a little bit. If you haven't heard, it's a brand new card game coming from Fantasy Flight Games set in the Star Wars universe, and it's going to be different from a lot of their previous card games. And we're going to talk about this a little bit because there's some new previews. We'll show you some cards, get an idea of what the cards look like, how the game is going to play at least a little bit. If you guys are new here to the channel, we are doing a massive giveaway for a Star Wars Shatterpoint core set in the form of a $165 Amazon gift card. There's still time left to enter this. This is running until the beginning of June, so you still have a little bit of time. So make sure you enter to win that by being a subscriber and leaving a comment on this or one of my videos. I know a lot of folks out there have very mixed emotions on Fantasy Flight with their Star Wars card game history. I have a feeling there's been a lot of lessons learned, and I have very high hopes for this game, but I know that some people have different ranging of emotions and opinions on this, and I'd love to hear about it. You can also keep the discussion going in our Discord. We have a Star Wars Gaming Discord, and it's a great Discord for you to join if you want to. Links are down in the video description below. And let's talk about this game a little bit because they gave us some previews, and we were able to see some of the cards. Some folks have, different voiced some different opinions on the art style. This is definitely a little bit more of an animated art style as opposed to the realistic art styles that we've seen before. Maybe like almost a comic book style art style for this game. Definitely has a little bit more of a cartoony comic book feel, and it's kind of a contrast against the type of work that Fantasy Flight has done in the past. They've always had this hyper realistic art style, and all of the art that they've commissioned over the years. I think that they really wanted to get away from that. They wanted this game to be seen as a departure from what has been in the past, and that, being that like games like Star Wars Destiny and Star Wars the LCG used art that we've seen already. There's a lot of reused art, and so I think if they were to put the same art on another game, maybe they were afraid that people would be like, oh, they're just using the same art, and this one's going to suffer the same fate as the last two. That's certainly an interesting thing. A lot of people brought up the old Decipher card games as well. Decipher being one of the first companies, in the post Magic the Gathering universe to have some successful card games in the late 1990s. Very, very fond memories I have. I would say from the mid 1990s. Really, when did they come out? 94, I think, for the Star Trek card game, and then maybe 95 for the Star Wars one. I'm not sure if those are the right years or not. Let me know what you guys. If you guys can, granted, I could just Google it, but I'm in the middle of doing a video, so I'm not going to Google it right now. I'm trying to just get the old noggin working. But I played both of those. I think I played the Star Trek Decipher card game a little bit more than the Star Wars one, whereas I collected the Star Wars one more. And but yeah, I played both of those when I was in high school, and those were fun games. I still have a Star Trek deck, although when I was in my 30s, I remember was selling a bunch of Magic cards, and ended up also throwing in all my Decipher Star Wars and Star Trek cards. And there's times when I regret that because it was kind of cool to go back and look at them, especially the original black border ones. But I don't really know too many people playing, although there are people still playing the Decipher Star Trek card game here in Orlando from time to time. There's a continuing committee that still gets that going, which is pretty cool. But it's funny to me because I was recently thinking, man, I'd love to get back into Magic the Gathering. This game has some aspects that remind me a little bit of Magic the Gathering. There's some aspects that remind me of Destiny. And there's some aspects that even remind me of Marvel Champions, another card game, although that one's an LCG, right, by Fantasy Flight. With all these different card games, and I just got a shipping notice at Keyforge because I had backed their recent crowdfunding campaign. That's shipping too. Makes me kind of leads me into thanking today's sponsor, which is Luxury Playstyle, by the way. If you haven't seen already, they have an amazing set of tokens. They have a huge selection of tokens for a lot of different games like Keyforge, games like Magic the Gathering, Star Wars Legion, Star Wars X-Wing, and more. Head over to Luxury Playstyle and check those out. Amazing full metal double-sided tokens. They're absolutely gorgeous. You are going to love them. Use code Crabbok VIP. You'll save 15% off of your purchase. They're also going to be at Origins this year at booth 1547. So if you're going to Origins, definitely check them out. You can see some of the tokens for yourself, and don't forget to give them that code because that should work there as well. So head over to luxuryplaystyle.com and check them out. So from these cards, gives you a little bit of an idea of what to expect. You're going to see ground vehicles, ground units, ground people, air vehicles. You got the sky and the ground. You got heroes. You got like event cards and things that are going to kind of work. I mean, if I were to make analogies from Magic the Gathering, you've got creatures, you've got artifacts, you've got sorceries, and some things that look like instants or all kinds of different spells and creatures, which is pretty cool. We also have two distinct areas of combat. The two different areas of combat are going to be, you have your sky and your ground, right? So you're going to have two different places where people are fighting, because it doesn't make sense for Tarkin to go up against an X-Wing, but it might make sense for a TIE fighter to go up against an X-Wing, or an X-Wing to go up against, a Star Destroyer or something like that. So you're going to have your ground and you're going to have your air. And I think that's pretty cool. It looks like we've got, attack power on the left, defense power on the right. That would probably make sense why Tarkin might have higher stats than an X-Wing, because relative to the ground, he is probably a more important or maybe more rare character. It looks like on the top left, we've got the golden kind of chevron symbol up there with a number. It looks like it's probably their cost. It certainly looks like it's their cost. And of course, if you look at the top, you'll see that they have the unit type at the top left, kind of just to the right of the cost. And then you have whether it's ground or space. I keep saying air, but you see clouds behind. I don't want to say space, but yeah, you have ground and space, up in the top right. So it'll kind of dictate where certain things take place, and which half they're going to be. So Tarkin won't necessarily be attacking an X-Wing directly. It also looks like we have different colors. Almost like maybe a Magic the Gathering sort of mana or different colored symbols. You got Luke Skywalker here in blue, Darth Vader in red, Tarkin in green, Leia in sort of that gold, and the X-Wing in white. And then this card here with the ATSTs in black. So you definitely have colors in here. Now, what exactly those colors mean, we're not 100% sure on, because some of the colors, like this card, this card with Leia and R2-D2, and then this card with the ATSTs, both have kind of a black in the background, but one has black trim and one has white trim. Could be villain or hero, I'm not sure. And the other question I have is like, will you be able to mix? Will I be able to put Leia in a Darth Vader deck? Maybe Vader was able to convert her, and turned her to the dark side. That'd be kind of, or maybe she was able to convert Vader and bring him back to the light. I'm going to be really curious if you're able to mix and match and actually do deck building like that. It'll be very interesting. Very interesting. I think it'll be fun. We got a lot of interesting things going on with these cards. So we also have rarity, which looks like it's down here in the bottom right. Certain cards like the X-Wing look like they're going to be the X-Wing has looks like a U, so maybe uncommon. And then Tarkin has what looks like an S. Maybe that's above rare. Maybe it's like super rare or something like that. I'm not sure exactly all the different rare categories they're going to have, but I'm sure they're going to try to get on board with that. There's certainly that dopamine rush with getting your card that's even more rare than normal rare in your packs. So I thought that was kind of cool. And there's other symbols like Tarkin has. A green thermal detonator and then a black Imperial kind of symbol, and the X-Wing has like a white-ish kind of rebel symbol underneath, and so unclear. Maybe that's the types of if it were Magic, I'd say he cost green and black mana to cast Tarkin, or or something like that. So I guess we'll have to see how that goes with all of that. We also have another thing that kind of harkens back to a little bit of Magic the Gathering is you have leaders, and so it makes me think that maybe they were inspired a little bit by the Commander format for Magic the Gathering. You have two that they kind of showcase here as Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. They play those cards sideways, and they have the ability to kind of flip over and join the battlefield. Now you already kind of see their cards here, so this is probably what the other side of those cards looks like. If you'll notice, these actually don't have a rarity, and that may simply be, now if we go to this side, they have an S underneath them, so probably just means that that's the other side of these cards. And so you can function as a leader, and then I'll go ahead and eventually jump into the battle and say, you know what, enough of this, I'm going in and I'm going to do some damage. So another thing about this game that we've learned so far is that it kind of reminds me a little bit of Destiny, and that you take one action at a time. Like, I don't take a whole turn and do all of my stuff, and then you take a whole turn and do all of your stuff. You're going to be basically doing one action at a time, going back and forth. And basically, an action can be anything from like an action written on an action card, like for example, Luke and Vader have different action abilities listed on their cards. It can also be playing a card, and of course we'll get more on leaders and more on actions and all the different actions that you have available. But that was something that was very popular in Destiny, was one action at a time. Like, I'm going to activate this card, or I'm going to play this card, or I'm going to roll these dice, or I'm going to spend these dice to do something. And that whole going back and forth, like putting Vader into play. Although that says it's an epic action, and it's unclear what exactly an epic action means. Maybe that's we'll have to learn more about that. But just because he goes into play doesn't necessarily mean he'll be able to attack right away, because I might attack him with people that I already have in play if he were to go into play. So there's definitely a little bit of a give and take aspect to being able to do stuff like that. We also got some art there. It looks like they're doing Han Solo and the Solo, a Star Wars story kind of attire there. So it's like a young Han Solo might appear in this one. They also call this first set or a Spark of Rebellion. That's why you'll see a little SOR at the bottom of other sets. I don't believe in any way that this game itself is going to be limited only to the Galactic Civil War, although that certainly is where they're starting out. Especially if they're calling this one Spark of Rebellion, they can definitely keep going forward into the future, or go back into the past. I imagine if they're going with an animated style here too, that they could probably borrow ideas from many different timelines and eras. High Republic, the Old Republic, the prequels, the sequels, the in-between timelines, and then some of the new films, and going back to like the early the dawn of the Jedi kind of timelines and stuff too. So there's a whole lot of different timelines that they could potentially do. And again, if this game is a little abstract, you're going to be able to really make that work. A lot of organized play support also. I got some more art here. They will be doing casual events for launch week, and then store tournaments, and then eventually like qualifiers and worlds. And they're going to have a system where you can earn tournament points the more you play, and so you don't necessarily just have to win one specific tournament, but like I guess the more you play, you can earn a world's invite. The more points you accrue, and they're going to keep track of your stats on a website and all kinds of interesting stuff like that. So for folks who are looking for a competitive scene, that's definitely going to be something that this game will be supporting. So it looks pretty interesting. Again, there's still a whole lot more questions we're going to have as to how deck building works. There's definitely unique symbols on some of these characters, whereas other ones don't. Like the X-Wing doesn't have a unique symbol, but like Leia and Tarkin and of course Luke and Vader do. So how many X-Wings can I put in a deck? Is it 2? Is it 4? Is it some other number? I guess we're going to have to... It's probably not 1, though, because otherwise there'd be no reason to have a Leia or a Luke. Unless, of course, you're going to see probably different versions of Luke, so you probably would still want... Even if there was a limit of only 1 per any card, you'd probably still want unique symbols, so you're not running, like, Luke... in this version, and then Jedi Knight Luke. But that is also a cool thing that they're going with, this Bespin Luke, and leaving room for that Return of the Jedi Luke. It's whenever they launch with Return of the Jedi Luke as like the first thing, you're like, oh, okay, well, he's like the most badass Luke ever, and how are we gonna have another Luke that's better than him? So it's unless of course you just make it cheaper. So I kind of like that. I like a lot of the stuff that they have going on here. But I also get that some folks are sort of the once bitten, twice shy approach with Fantasy Flight. So I want to hear from you guys. Do you think there's any chance that FFG's learned their lessons. I mean, this is, and again, it's also a collectible card game, which means you're going to be buying random boosters. Some people like random boosters, some people don't. I kind of miss random boosters. I don't know if it's the best format ever, but like I feel like it's been long enough since I've played a random booster game, and I'm ready to do that. I'm ready to open some boosters and then film it, like open boosters and see what we get. You know, like be one of those dudes who does magic unboxings or whatever, but do it for Star Wars instead. So I think that'll be fun. It's been a long time since we had that random aspect, and Destiny seems popular. You know, and if they don't have to make the dice for this game, then maybe this will, go the distance. I've got hopes for it. It sounds like it could be fun, and the fact that it's built to allow multiplayer more than just two players, I love that. I love being able to have a 3-player game or a 5-player game, or just have everybody sit around a big table and just have fun with it. I love that, and so the fact that this works for both casual and competitive is a big bonus for me. So can't wait to find out more. We'll have to see as 2024 gets closer. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing and help make this channel possible. Thank you so much for your continued support. I will talk to you later. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. You can't take the sky from me. The spice must flow, and don't ever throw your remote control out the window, because then you'll not be able to turn your TV off without trying to fiddle around for that button that you never used before, and that can be difficult.